And welcome back to redheart.com as well as the Crochet Crowd. I'm your host Mikey, and in today's tutorial we are going to work on this fabulous throw. I'm so excited about this. This is called the Peppermint Throw, and it is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. So what we're going to be doing today, I'm going to shrink myself right now, and around me you can see all the different menu options. If you'd like to fast forward to a certain part of this tutorial, you can do so now. Just click on the motif that you would like to do next. So just a brief explanation, right above me is all the motifs. All 42 of them start off the same way from row, but there are 6 ways to finish. You'll have to read the instructions to be able to figure out how many you need to do, but of course in the tutorial I'll tell you that as we go along. So you can fast forward to all the different motifs to finish, and then of course we have the smaller motif which you'll have to fit in between. If I were you and you were me, I would totally do all 42 of the motifs at the same time from rounds number 1 to 10 and securely fasten off, and leave round number 11 to the very end. So once you have your 42, then you know how many you have to make. It's in the instructions on how many motif 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I would do each one of those at the exact same time because it's easier to remember the pattern as you're working on it. So why is there motifs 1 to 6 anyway? You really have to look at this Afghan, because what you'll notice is that this here is motif number 1 and this is motif number 2. But look at the difference. See the pink and the red? Those are color B. Do you see that they're not in the same position? So when they go together, that they're not identical. So what the designer has done here with all of the motifs is that even from motifs 3 and 4 and then 5 and 6 is that she has changed the corner slightly so that each one of the interior of the pinwheels falls in a different place to keep the spiraling effect going. And because of that, that's why there's 6. Now motifs 1 and 2 are the interior of this Afghan, and so every side will be attaching to a neighbor, whether it's a square or another octagon. Now motifs 3 and 4 look like this, and there is a difference because of the pinwheel, as I've just explained in the last one for 1 and 2. And so these are the exterior but not the corner of the Afghan. So you'll notice that each one of these will attach to its neighbor in 5 spots, but leaving like a semicircle at the bottom, which is the exterior. And 3 and 4 will always sit together, and you'll notice that the pinwheels will never fall into the same position when they're sitting side by side, and that's why there's 3 and 4. Here's the large motifs 5 and 6, and they're almost identical to each other. Again, the stopping and the starting places are really different within these ones here because of where they're following. So what happens with 5 and 6 is that they're attaching to the neighbor only in 3 sides, 1, 2, and 3, and then 1, 2, and 3. And then the rest of it around the side of the corner as it comes around the Afghan is all just kind of rounded off. And that's why there is 2 different versions, because in actual fact they're going to be sitting beside different motifs. Therefore the pinwheel has been honestly just moved over, and so even if you put these 2 together as is right now, you'll notice that the pinwheels don't follow into the same position, and because of that, that's why there's 2 different versions. So that's why there's 5 and 6. And finally, the last motif is the smallest one. Really no-brainer, really you'll whip these off in no time, and you need 30 of these small little gadgets here. You will notice that there's a beautiful little interior just like so, and because of that it's just a really interesting and easy motif in order to do. So let's examine what is on the back of these motifs next. So I have motifs 1 and 2, and I want to turn them over just like so. And the backs resemble almost like a stove top of an old coil stove. And essentially I really needed to see that in order to really know how these stitches are working together. This is exactly how they're working together, is that the colors A and B are actually working independently of each other, but are like crocheted in a way that they're sitting and resting in each other. At no particular point, except for the very beginning of the actual, like the very center, are they attached to each other in any way. So not actually on the fact, you can slip your hands in behind the chains that are jumping across, because the reds are just kind of resting in each other, and because of the fact that it's just resting in each other, it just provides a really great, there's no color bleed, and it makes for a very perfect pinwheel just like so. So what I want to do for you now is that we're going to start this tutorial today, and we're going to start off with doing rounds number 1 to 10, which are the same across the board, and then we're going to dive into the endings of all 6, and then at the very end of the tutorial that we'll get working on the small motif next. So So let's begin this part of the tutorial, and this is for rounds number 1 through 10, and this counts for all of the 42 versions. The only difference is that row number 11 will have a different edging. So this part of the tutorial is rows number 1 through 10 only. So what you have to decide first of all is the color. When you're looking at the two colors, color A is the exterior that it ends up being. So you'll have to decide what is going to be the dominant color and what is the inset color, which is color B. So let's turn it over and take a closer look at the back, just like you see here, and you can see that all of the pinwheels, so for example if you follow this up, it's all just resting, and basically it's all just chain work that is sitting there, and so essentially they're working independently of each other when they're just sitting in two positions. So they're not actually attached to each other in the sense where you have to like slip stitch your yarn. So it's a very easy process. The only thing is that getting started is a little difficult, but once you understand how to get started, you're going to find it's actually a very easy process. The next key component is to understand that when you're doing these pinwheels, you are always going to miss the very first one. The reason why it's having this twisting effect is that we're always going to skip the first double crochet regardless of what round you're on, and that even includes the exterior edging. If you understand that, then it becomes very easy. So when you're starting off a row, it always says slip stitch to the next one over. That means that basically you are just getting to the second one, and then you will see as you go in the pattern is that you're always going to skip the first one. Once you get that concept, it's going to be really easy for you to be able to follow along with this particular motif. So you'll need to choose two colors, and I'm going to use the green as my dominant color. It's actually a different shade than what was in the original. You can see here it's more lighter and more brighter. So what we're going to do is that we're going to create a slip knot first, and just like so, and we want to chain 4. Okay, so remember that this never counts as one. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we want to create a slip stitch to the beginning chain. So just go into the beginning to form a ring. So just grab the yarn and pull through, and now you have the first one there. Did you notice how I just instantly grabbed this straggler and just put it around as if it's part of the round? It just makes it hide it when you go into the next. So let's begin the next part. With still using the green, we're going to do our first revolution around the ring. To start, we're going to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. In the rules of double crochet, chaining of 3 counts as 1, but we actually did an extra one because we're going to put a chain space in between all of the double crochets as we go around. So we're going to double crochet, so just wrap going in, pull through 2 and 2, and then chain 1 again. So let's continue to do that. You need a total of 8. It is so important that you make sure you have your 8 before you carry on to the next level, because you will not be successful. And in actual fact, one of the samples that I actually did 7 and realized it a couple rows later. So I'm just carrying all the way around, and I want to make sure that I'm counting the number of spokes. Now I've lost count. That's no big deal. I want to make sure anyway that it's the same. So I'm just going to count from the first one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And I'm going to chain 1 first, and then go to the third one up in the beginning chain, not all the way to the top, and grab it and pull through, and pull a large loop and let it fall down. And now we're going to begin the next part. Okay, so we're ready for the next part. We have our strings, and I just want to make sure that they're accessible and easy for me. I'm not going to deal with those quite yet, but just wait and just see what I'm doing. So this is where we've slip stitched right into this post. I want you to come into this gap right here, right next to the ring, but in between this space here. And we're going to grab our yarn. Now I recommend that you have an extra long tail on this, because you want to secure it into position, because you'll notice that the knot will actually come out through the front, and by leaving an extra long tail when you go to fasten it at the back, that you'll be able to pull it through and hide the knot really easily. So what I need you to do is just come in from the front, just in the ring, and out through the post. Okay, so just in the ring and out through the post. And I want you to grab the yarn and pull through. So now it's quickly attached. To make it easier for you, put that straggler that is coming in front, pull it through the hole. You have to start on the front. You can't start on the back. Trust me. You can try, but it won't work. So now we have this done. We are going to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Where have we seen that before? this round and this round are absolutely identical using the same ring. So we're going to double crochet, but we're going to move over in between these two posts right there. Coming in and double crochet. Then we chain one. Okay, moving to the next post, in between the next post. Okay, and then chain one. So if we had 8 going on the green, this means that we should have 8 spaces left for this pink that's going in. So chain one. And what I really want to notice as we're coming around, we're coming close to those green strings again. We're gonna have to deal with that before we close off this final round. It's not a big deal, but just watch how I do it. So I'm just chaining one in between all of the double crochets that I'm sealing around the ring. So this is where it's joining. So this post here is the one I need to pay attention for. So I'm still gonna go one more over without having to deal with anything, just go like I normally have been. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. But before I finish, I need to make sure that I bring the loop forward, but I bring the working string from the green also forward. That string has to be in the forward position or it'll not join the other round properly. So I have done my double crochet. All I need to do is just chain one, and then I attach it here to the third chain up, 1, 2, and 3, because remember we chained 4. So pull it through and through, pull a nice loop, and there you go. So this is what it looks like at this point. So you can see that they're really not sitting in each other yet. They're just attached right at the very beginning, and this is the only place that they're attached. Okay, so let's begin the green again, and the green has been pulled forward. We have the string going to the yarn ball in the forward. See how it's underneath and it's between this gapping space? If it's not in between there, you're in trouble. So you'll have to take it out and redo that to make sure that it is through. Make sure you check before you start the revolution, because you'll have to redo it. So we're gonna pull the loop back onto the hook just like so. So we're pulling the green onto itself and we have the loop, but the problem is that we cannot operate within this first post. We have to move into a gapping space that is right beside it, inside the green only. So we're just going to go into the gapping space and pull through and through. So let's slip stitch. So now we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. And then what we need to do is then put another double crochet into that same space. Just like this. So the problem that we have right now is that I have it out of the way, but the pink is where I've joined it is the next one right here. So we have to move that loop forward and the working string forward before we continue at this point, because if you don't, it's going to not be aligned properly. So I'm just pulling it forward out of my way, and here's the secret. Whenever you have the number of double crochets, you will have the same number of chains. So there's 2 there, 1 and 2. Remember that chaining counts as 1 double crochet. So now we're going to move to the next green. So the next green is right in behind. I'm just kind of forcing things open. And so do you see how you're on the left side of this green right here? You want to make sure you're on the left side of this post here as well, and you want to force that out through the pink. So we're just going to double crochet, just popping it out, and double crochet twice in that same gap space. So you notice that we skipped right over that first double crochet over there just to keep the spiral going. And we know now that this is the yarn tails working for the pink. They're in front. They are locked into position so that they're ready for when I need it next. We're going to chain 2, and again there's the next green. We just want to come to the left side of it, pop it out into there's the gap, and then chain 2. Okay, so there's the next green end. Let's pop it out. So what this is doing is it's forcing the pink to take a back seat. You'll notice that the pink is disappearing because it's sitting on the back. So 1 and 2 in through the green, pop only the green out, okay, and then 1 and 2 again, look for the green, pop it out. So it makes it really easy to begin to do this, that you're not really looking for any stitches, you're just looking for gapping spaces. 1 and 2, and you've already dealt with the pink at this point, so you can go all the way around in this. It's whenever you hit over top of another color that's being changed out, that's when you have to make sure that these yarn strings come forward. So 1 and 2, we're looking for the next, and there is 2 there. Okay, and you can see you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then chaining 2 to finish it off, and we join it to the top of the third one there. We make sure we just get the green only and pull a generous loop like so. And now we're ready for pink. So the pink is falling out through the front. There's the loop, and there's the yarn strand coming to the yarn ball right here, and we're gonna pull everything tight again to itself. We're going to do the exact same thing what we just did with the green, but with the pink. Now here is where the green is, and basically we're working in this direction, we're coming back around, so we're gonna deal with this one when we come back around, but not right yet. It's when you have to go over it, that's when you deal with it. So just like we did with the green, is that we're not ready to go out of this one here because we never start in the first one. We always slip stitch over 1, so we're just slip stitching the gap and going over, and then chaining 3. 1, 2, and 3, and then we come into that same space, just a pink, and now we're forcing the green to take a back seat right where those gapping spaces are. Now remember what I said, when you have 2 double crochets you're gonna have the same amount of chains, so there's 2, and that exists for all revolutions of this particular project. So let's begin to double crochet. We're looking at the pink, we go toward the left of the gap space. Okay, so go to left, 2 double crochets. Okay, and now we're going to chain 2, and again look for the next pink, slip in behind, pull it forward, and then do your double. Okay, chain 2, coming in, pull it out, and then chain 2, 2 double crochets. The trick is to really watch those first strings that are coming out for the next color. I did a few samples and I kept forgetting that, and you do regret it because you basically run back into it and realize that you haven't dealt with it, so you got a frog, and we all love frogging, I'm sure, but if you can avoid it, great. So again, 1, 2. Now the fabulous thing about this particular project is that 2 lines are always the same, or 2 rounds are always the same. You're just using the opposite color, and it makes it very easy to remember. So here is where they're joining, so we can still go into one more space before we have to deal with that. So we're still going into the pink. Just look where that green is starting, and that's where you have to start having to jump over, and that's when you have to deal with the strings. So we're about to go over this area here, so I'm going to move the working strand and the loop forward, and then chain 2, and just simply join to the beginning chain of 3. So just to the chain 3 portion of it, or actually the top of the chain 3, because that's where you were. So let's just join it with the slip stitch, just like so, and pull a generous loop, and now we're ready for the next revolution. Do you see how the knot came forward in this? So if you can pull it behind, when we go to affix it, you can see it looks a lot better. So let's begin the next revolution. So we're about to start the green, and I put my hook in the green, and I'm going to pull it nice and tight, just like so. And so remember, in the rules that I already said, is that we are going to make sure that we deal with this properly, as far as we're never going in that first one, so we have to slip stitch to the second to pull it through. So just pull it through, and now we're over top of the second. Actually, I'm not very comfortable with that. Let me try it again. Just like so. So we're ready now, and we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. So that counts as going over this post, and then we're going to put 2 double crochets again in this chaining space of the green only, forcing that pink in behind. So now we have basically 3 double crochets in a row. Now we're about to hit this pink here because that's where we stopped. So we're going to pull the pink forward so it's out, so it's in front, so I can trap it. So now that we have 3 double crochets, we're going to have 3 chains, and then we go to the next green. So in the next green we automatically always skip the first one, double crochet into the second, so just going in, pop it out, and then we're going to put 2 more into the chain space of the same green, and that pushes that pink in behind for that one there. So now you'll see that there's gapping right now. That's because we haven't done the red in the same amount of quantity, so it's, that's, or the pink, and that's why you see the gaps right now. So if you have that, don't worry about it. So 1, 2, and 3, and we just immediately skip the first green and go to the second for a double crochet, again popping it forward, and then come into the gapping space for 2 more. So by moving into the gapping space, you're creating the spiral. So 1, 2, and 3, and then again the green, skip the first one, go to the second for double crochet, and then again into the gap. Okay, and then chain 3. Okay, first one, or sorry, you skip the first one, go to the second as always. When I first started this pattern, I was like having to read the instructions for everything, and then I realized that if you know that there's a commonality of your stitches, it's really easy. So then 1, 2, and 3, and again skip the first one, go to the second, and then 2 more into the gapping space. Okay, 1, 2, and 3, go to the second, and then the gapping space for 2 more, and then 1, 2, and 3, skip the first one, and then go to the second. So you never ever want to go around a pink at the same time in the back, so you can see what's happening. So, okay, and then we're just going to join it. So 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to join it to the top at the beginning of the chain 3, and then pull a generous loop and leave it be, and let's bring on our pink again. So let's bring on our pink again, and we're just going to tighten everything back up and bring the pink on to your hook, just like so. If it's twisting, just make sure you untwist it. Okay, so this is just like the same rules of the green. We never start off in the beginning, and we're just going to move over and go to 1 over and just slip stitch and then chain 3. 1, 2, and 3, and again in the pink like you did with the green, simply just put in 2 more double crochets into that pink space. Okay, so you're pushing that green now backward. So now you have 3 double crochets. Remember, the chain 3 counts as one of them, so 1, 2, and 3 is your chain, so the chains equal the amount of double crochets. Immediately skip the first one and go to the second, and again pop that green back, and then 2 more. So continue to do that same thing. I've already done it with green, I won't do it with pink. Just continue to do the same revolution all the way around, and when we come back I'll show you what to do next. So I'm continuing to do the pink, and I'm gonna run into the green, so I want to make sure that the loop and the working yarn are in front before I just chain my 3 across and slip stitch to finalize that off, like so, and then I pull a nice big gorgeous loop and let it fall. So now the green is in front, ready for me to go. So let's start on with our next revolution. Let's start on our green. We're just going to put the green back on, and I'm just going to pull everything nice and tight again. And now this time the green, you can see that it goes up from 1 to 2 to 3. So that means that we have 4 in this revolution as we go around. So let's begin. We never start off in the first one. We have to slip stitch to the second one over to start us, and then chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. So now this time we have another double crochet to do first. Push that pink in behind, and then we're going to put 2 double crochets on this gapping space of the green. So you know how to do this already. So it becomes really easy. Now this pink is the next one because that's where it's joining. We're going to bring the pink forward and out of our way so that we can begin to do that. So the pink is in the front now, and we're simply just going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, because it equals the amount of double crochets. We come over here and we have 3, but we skip the first one and immediately double crochet into the second, and we get the next one, double crochet that's there, and then we're going to go into the gapping space of the green. So just popping it out, pushing that pink in behind. Okay, so now you have 4. So 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, and 3, and 4. We just skip over and we skip the first one, go to the second of the green, and get the next one, double crochet, and then the gapping space of 2, and continue to do that all the way around. And remember that you have 4 double crochet, therefore there always be 4 chains. And this is what it looks like in the back now. You can really start seeing that the oven coil is starting to really form, and this here is that large string that I talked to you about in the very beginning. So continue to do the green all the way around. We'll meet back up and I'll get you started on the pink. When you get all the way back around, of course you're going to chain your 4 and then come to the top at the beginning of the chain 3 and pull a nice generous, just slip stitch and pull a nice generous loop, just like you see. Okay, so we're going to bring our pink back, and our pink, now there's 4 here, and we see that we follow up 1, 2, 3, and we have yet to do the 4s, and so we pull the loop again, pull it nice and tight, and we want to begin again. So again, we don't start in the first one, we immediately slip stitch to the second one over so that we're not in the first, and then chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and then come in double crochet into the next double crochet that's available, and then the next gapping of the pink we are going to put in 2 double crochets. So it's exactly what we've done with the green. As I promised you in the very beginning of this this motif, is that basically every 2 lines are the same as each other. They're just using the different colors. So you have 4 here, that means that we are going to chain 4 and then come into the next pink. Never go into the first one, always to the second, and we're going to double crochet that one, the next one, and then the next 2, like so. So continue to do that with the pink all the way around. When we come around, we're going to run into this green again, so I'll meet you back at that point to show you again, just to give you a quick reminder. So coming all the way back around, again make sure these green are in front before going across with 4 double crochets or 4 chains in order to seal the deal with the slip stitch, like so. So we're going to start the next revolution coming up, and the next revolution, so we have in both levels now, we've completed 1, 2, 3, and 4. So basically everything is in line. So the next revolution, what we're going to do is that we're going to start with the green. So I'm just going to let the pink fall forward. I just automatically let it fall forward. I've done enough of these samples that it just naturally happens. I want to pull this loop back up. So here's the secret. Both of these revolutions should have 5 on, and that's where the secondary color, which will be pink in this case, will end. The final color of going to a 6th round, so that there's 6, is actually the edging, which is round number 11. So let's begin to do this one here. Is that we're going to just slip stitch over 1. Remember, we never begin in the beginning, like the beginning double crochet, and then chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. And then we come and look at the stitches, and we got 3 altogether, but there's 2 more left here. So 2 more left, and of course we have to go into that gapping space that's in between, so get that green, and we want to put 2 more double crochets there, and that'll give you a total of 5 in the group. like so. So now that there's 5 here, you'll chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're about to go over this pink, so put the pink in forward and then just immediately go to your next green. Skip the first one, always go to the second, and you want to get all of them that exists, all of the double crochets that exist, and then once you get those in, then you put 2 more on the gapping chain of the green, and continue to do that all the way around. And when we come back, I'll do it again with the pink, and then that will conclude the whole rounds number 1 through 10 once we get to that point. So I'll see you in just a moment. So I'm coming all the way back around now, and I have chained my 5. I'm just going to join it to the top of the chain 3 that I started with and pull up a loop like this. So let's begin. I'm going to go back to the pink, and there's 5 here. You can see that there's only 4 here, so I want to make sure I have 5 of the pink too, so that you want both levels to have 5, and then that'll conclude off around number 10. So to begin again, we are just going to not go into the first one, we're going to slip stitch to the second like this, and then chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Let's grab the double crochets that are in a row. There should be 3, and there is. It's fabulous. And now we're going to go into the gapping space of the pink. See how it's getting bigger and bigger, that I can pull that more and more. I told you in the very beginning, it's starting off is a little tense, but as you get bigger it gets easier and easier with this particular one. So we want a total of 5, therefore there should be 5 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then go again, skip the first one, go to the second, make sure that green stays in behind, and just continue to do that all the way around. When we come back, I'm going to show you how to finish off. I said in the intro that I would do all 42 of the same, so I'm going to show you how to finish it off earlier so that you can do that and then come back and then restart again. And if you prefer to do all of each one, I'm going to show you tips on that too as well. So we're almost all the way back around, and again I want to pull that green in front. You cannot forget that, so don't ever get lazy about that. So we want to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and this concludes off round number 10. I want to join it to the beginning of the top of the 3. So what we have to do now is that we have to eliminate the color B out. In this case it is the pink, so we want to eliminate that out. So I'm just going to grab my scissors and cut, and I want to deal with this right away. And so regardless of which motif you're working with, all of the color B has to be removed at this point. So I just pull the loop through, and I'm going to just grab a little darning needle, because I really, if I'm gonna do such a fabulous Afghan, I'm gonna do it right off the bat, and just do it in the moment and just slip through the chain. Now this chain will end up behind the next layer, so you can safely go through this chain and it will never be seen, unless you're turning the Afghan over, of course. And I would go back and forth 3 times. And therefore it won't have to fall out. I also want to deal with the center just after I finish this one. So I've gone back and forth 3 times, done. Okay, so it's easy peasy. You can barely tell where I've stopped and started. Well, pretty close. And I want to just turn it over. There's the back, and I want to grab this. Now when I go to tie this into the back, I want to make sure that it doesn't pop out through the front, so you see the knot coming out through the middle just like this. I want to make sure when I tie it backward, I'm just going to put on my darning needle again. I just want to make sure that it's just popping out. Okay, so I just want to make sure that when I go in, I'm just going behind a few strings just to secure it. That will never be visible on the other side. Okay, and I want to make sure when I pull it, it pulls it so it's out of the view of the main center of the circle. I just want to make sure it's secure. It's already actually technically secure. It's just, you just really just want to get rid of it so it's not visible. Okay, and then here is the green string from where we started, so I want to cut that, and I want to cut that. Okay, so if you wanted to continue on with your motif, the green is ready to go. But in my case, what I want to tell you is that if you're going to do all 42 at the same time, I would recommend that you would do the following. So the green is popping out, and if you're going to do all of the 42 in rows number 1 to 10, just make sure that you just secure it off safely, because you're probably going to use the same color on the next one, right? So you can't have like 42 balls of yarn just waiting to be done. So what I would recommend is just to finish it off like you would normally would, and you can either, it doesn't matter exactly where you start on these as long as you start with the green again. So all I'm just going to do is that I'm just going to fasten this green in so that it's permanently hidden, so that I can start safely at any point or any particular green on this revolution in order to do it. So it's just I think it's a quicker way to do this than it is to do all of the motifs from start to finish from rounds 1 to 11, because you know round number 11 is different for 6 of them, so it just makes it easier. So now that I've done a nice job, I'm securing it in, I'm basically ready to go, and this is ready for round number 11. So that completes off rows number 1 through 10 for the motif for all of them, and there's the front and there's the back. So let's move along to the next part of the tutorial, because now it's time to start doing the finishing of round number 11 for all 6. So now it's time to transform into motif number 1. So we have everything from rows number 1 through 10 right here, but we need to create the points in order to attach the neighbor. Motif number 1 attaches to all 8 sides regardless of if it's a square or octagon. I'm going to show you how to do it, and actually motif number 1 and 2 are very easy, and you can see, and there's pictures available online for you to be able to see this as well. So basically when you've started this one, if you went from start to finish, the green will be over, so you have to slip stitch one over, and basically where I'm about to join it will help you as well. So let's begin to do the corners for motif number 1. So let's begin. I'm going to be joining on my new yarn. I'm just going to create a slip knot to do so. And if you have just started this one and you're continuing along through, you don't want to do what I'm doing of doing all 42, you will be in the first one here where you join with the slip stitch. You need to come and slip stitch to the second one over. Okay, so even on the exterior you're still moving over by 1, and you want to join it. So if you're doing this, you just want to join it and then chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Even if you slip stitch, you still need to do that chaining of 3. We're going to double crochet into the very first one here, and I'm just leaving my straggler down on top of the line so that I can trap it in a position. The next one is where we're going to start creating the corner. So to create the corner, you're going to double crochet into the next one, and then you're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3, just like so. And now we want to come into that very same stitch with the double crochet. So it's like a V stitch really. So they're into the same, and now we go into the next double crochet and into the spacing. So the green space there. See how that's continuing to rotate around? So essentially each corner is going to have 3 in a row. Okay, just like this, 3 in a row, but the 2 middle will be together. We're now going to immediately jump in behind. Okay, and what I recommend, see this loose string? I would pull it through that pink on the underside and still continue to trap it as you play on this green string. So we're immediately going to jump on this green string, and we're going to put 4 double crochets around that green string, and this is going to sit in behind of the pink for 4 double crochets. So here is the repeat pattern. We immediately are now going to come into the front of the green, so we're just immediately going to jump over. We never come into the first one, we're going to go into the second for a double crochet, and we're going to go into the next one for a double crochet. So there's the 2 out of 3. So here then double crochet into the next one, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and double crochet into that same one to create that V stitch idea. And then double crochet into the next one. Okay, so you have 3 on this side, you only have 2 here. That means you have to come into the gap. And then jump in behind, so just immediately come to the green and put 4 double crochets back there. And continue that same patterning going all the way around. I'll review it one more time. because we're here and might as well do it. So we're gonna come in, jump into the front. So we're gonna skip the first one, come into the second for double crochet. We're going to double crochet into the next, and the next one's like a V-stitch. So you're gonna put in a double crochet, chain 3, and double crochet into that same one, and then double crochet in the next, and then the gap. I want to make sure I actually get the gap though. I got into a chain there, and then we come in behind, so just fold that up front and 4 double crochets in behind. So continue to go all the way around. I'll meet you back up in just a moment. We'll finalize off this one, and then we have more motifs to analyze next. And this is what we have so far. When you get all the way back around, you're going to end up in the behind, and you're just going to slip stitch to the top of the beginning chain 3 that you started with, and you can just fasten it off nicely. But you can see now you have all 8 sides like a stop sign, and it's just really easy. And this one, it really is a no-brainer. Motif 1 and 2 are very similar. So now let's compare. This is motif number 1, just like you see here, and here is motif number 2. So the difference is that where these pinwheels are ending up, and you can see here that the pinwheels on this side are ending up in the 2 corners, where this pinwheel is right in the direct middle of the 2 corners, and that's the difference between 1 and 2. So let's finish off and let's try motif number 2, round number 11. So let's begin. We're doing motif number 2, and motif number 2 has a slight variation from motif number 1. In motif number 1, what we ended up with is that when you look at it, the pinwheels are in a different location when they're put together. So you can see that the pink pinwheel is in the center of the corners, where the red, those are on the corners. And so essentially what we're doing in motif number 2 is that we're changing where the corners end up. And so basically we're going to transform this sample here into be motif number 2. So all the motifs right now, they are ending up on row 10, which is the finalizing of the final B color, and now we're just going to bring on the green. Now if you left on the green and you wanted to do it all the way from the start, to begin, all you're just going to do is that you're just going to bring on your yarn, and it doesn't matter where you start. If you're joining on your yarn, obviously you're going to start, if you haven't if you have not taken off your yarn, you're going to just start wherever you are. So if you're going to start and you haven't removed yarn, you're just going to slip stitch over to the second. In this case, we're joining yarn, so we're going to join to the second one over to be in the position right away, and we're going to fasten it on and then chain 3. 1, 2, and 3, and that counts as our first double crochet. So let's begin. We're going to double crochet into the next 3 double crochets that are here in the green. And we are going to put that straggler down on top so we can hide it into position so that you'll never see it. And you have your 3. So again, this is different than motif number 1. Now this straggler, what I would do is just pop it out through the back, and so then you can operate it and put it around this chain here so that it can get stuck. So what we're going to do now is that the corners will end up in the top of the B. When you looked at the beginning one of motif number 1, essentially B ends up in the middle, but what we're going to be doing on this one in motif number 2 is that it ends up in the end of the color B. So let's begin. We're going to simply turn it forward and just grab this chain that's in behind, and essentially we want to put 3 double crochets in. 1, 2, and 3, followed by chaining of 3. 1, 2, and 3, and put 3 more double crochets back on that same chain line. So that's pretty easy, isn't it? So let's just review again. So we're just going to now come to the front. So I just see how I just push that back. I'm now going to come to the green. I never go into this first one, always go to the second, and I'm just going to double crochet the remainder that's left, and there's only 4 of them here in the front. So in this one here, we're not playing with that gapping space afterward like we have been on the other motifs, so we haven't been going another one here. So let's just turn it. We're just gonna grab this back one here, and we're gonna put 3 double crochets again.
1, 2, and 3, and then chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and again back in. And you're going to do this all the way around. So this is another interior one where all sides are joining to a neighbor, and then once you have your 3, just push this back, go to the second one over again, and then just double crochet into the next 4. So let's just continue that, and when we come back I'll show you just make sure that we fasten off and just wrap up motif number 2. So now coming all the way back around and making sure that you do that final corner, which is your final on the back side of the pink. And then once you get that done, you can just slip stitch it to the top at the beginning of the chain 3. And that will conclude off this one here. Again, another very easy one here, and when you compare the difference of motif number 1 to 2, you can see that the pinwheels are in a different location as a result of changing where the corner is. So let's move along. We're going to do motif number 3 next. Welcome to motif number 3. Motif number 3 is when the game plan starts getting a little more complicated. It beats number 1 and 2 as far as has a lot more interesting sides. This is actually exposed to the outside, so you have to look at this thing that there's actually 5 locations of where it attaches. So it attaches here, 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 and here. And so then this here is on the exterior of the Afghan right at the bottom, and so you can see it's all rounded, so there's no points left. So right here is the stitch marker where you're going to start. So this is where we would be starting with the green as we come around. So you'll notice here that where it's starting and where that first joining is slightly off from each other. So we always think that when we're joining stuff that we're always on a corner. In this case for number 3 we're not. So when we go to do the repeat pattern, you have it says to repeat 4 times. So you have 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the game plan changes right over here as we begin to come around as we come down. So once we get to this side over here, I'm going to follow along exactly with you step by step for this whole one. I'm not going to cut out at any point, and so that we're going to get this done together. So let's take our motif that we have right now, and we're going to transfer this into motif number 3. So let's grab on our green, and if you have your green already attached, let's just slip stitch over, and if not, I'll show you where to attach. So let's begin to do our green next, and I'm just going to create a slip knot. If you have not unattached your yarn, then you're just going to slip over one. Doesn't matter which one that we start with, it really doesn't. So what we want to do is that I want to come into the second one. If you have not unattached your yarn, you'll be in the first. You'll want to slip stitch over to the second one over, and if you're attaching like I am, just go to the second one just like this and just pull through, and now let's chain 3. So 1, 2, and 3. Now I found motif number 3 really interestingly. I was really struggling with motif number 3, so I'm going to simplify it for you to make sense for you. So let's do that next. So let's begin, and remember how I said to you that we're actually starting below the joining point. Because of that, we actually have to compensate. There's more stitches here than there is in a typical corner. So when you think that you're about to start, that you're screwing it up, you're actually not. So what we're going to do in the very next one is that we're going to put 2 double crochets into the next stitch. And you would think, oh, that's not right. It's right. Just stick with me, folks. So we're going to put 2 double crochets in, and then the next stitch that we have, we're going to put in like a V-stitch once again. Now this one here is slightly different than the others, and essentially what we're going to be doing is that we're going to put in a double crochet, chain 2, not chain 3, chain 2 only, and just come into the same stitch for another double crochet. So now what we're going to do is that we're going to put a double crochet into the next one and a double crochet into the gapping space right here. Okay, and this straggler, I'm just going to just pull it out through the back so that it comes out through the back, and I would just want to make sure it goes around that green line. Now the backs are really easy on this part of this motif. They're not all the same. So what we're going to do when we have the corner, so we created the corner, so the ones that are on the behind, when there's a corner in between each other, they are different. So we're only going to put 4 double crochets in there. Now we've been doing that for motif 1 and 2 anyway, but I'm just trying to emphasize to you that it's not always the same. Just like so. So now let's just review the pattern one more time, because what we did here is not going to be the same that we're going to do here. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to just jump over to the first one here, and we're going to put in a double crochet and another double crochet, so 2 in a row. The next one here will be like a V-stitch, and now this one here has the double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2 and 3, and then back into the same one like so, and then double crochet into the next, and then double crochet into the next gap. So this is essentially what you already know from a previous tutorial. See, it's different down here because this is ending up on the exterior of the Afghan. That's why there's only 2 and not 3, so it's not an excessive gap. In behind we want to put in 4 double crochets, so we're just putting it on to that green in behind, and we want to make sure that we're continuing to go all the way around to a certain point, to the point where we need to get all of the sides in line. Remember I said that there's 5 points of joining, so we have to make sure there's 5 points here. So we're now, once we had the 4 in behind, we're just going to come into the front, we skip the first one, go to the second for double crochet, go to the next one for a double crochet, and then the next one is the V-stitch. So it's a double crochet, chain 3 and double crochet into the same spot. There's your next corner, and then double crochet into the next, and then into the gapping space. We come in behind then the next one, and we're putting in 4 double crochets back there. Okay, so you can see you have a join 1, 2, and you're now almost done the third, and we're just still going to continue along. Okay, so we're now going to jump in front, and we're going to do the second one over, don't forget, a double crochet, the next one double crochet, and the next one is a V. So double crochet, chain 3 and into the same spot. There's your next corner, and then we double crochet the next one and the next gap like there. So now you can see 1, 2, 3, we're carrying along, and the next one is in behind for 4 double crochets on that green chain line in behind. And then we come back to the front again, skipping that front first one, going to the second for double crochet. Let's go to the next one for a double crochet, and there comes that V-stitch. Now here's that double crochet, chain 3 and V-stitch in, or double crochet in, and then the double crochet next, and then the gap. Okay, so now you have 1 join, 2 join, 3, 4, and now we're still on the we're creating the 5th, so we're still coming in behind and putting a 4 double crochet there. Just like that. And now what we need to pay attention to is that this is where the repeat pattern of 4, it says to repeat 4 times, so 1, 2, 3 and 4, and so now we have to look back at the pattern, because this is when it starts changing to create that loop, or that revolution that comes around the outside of the Afghan. So let's go back to our pattern. So this is where the corners start to change a little bit. So here we go. We're going to double crochet into the first. Okay, we know how to do that. We double crochet into the second. We know how to do that. And this time we're double crocheting into the third. This is the V-stitch, but this time instead of chaining that 3, we're now chaining only 2, 1 and 2, come back into that same stitch like that. Okay, so there's your V, and then we double crochet the next one, and then we double crochet 2 times, so 2 into this. And the reason for that is that this now is going to be a lot different as we go all the way for the remainder. So essentially this is what it looks like at this point. So we have the joining of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we're just going to come and sweep around it and do that exterior circle, which is really, really easy. Let me show you how to do that part. So once you get to this part, it's just really easy, is that we just, on this green back here, we're just going to put 6 double crochet. So 6 now. So we were doing 4 and now it's 6. That's why I was saying to you at the beginning of this motif, is that it's not always the same in behind. So this is starting to create the circling effect that's on the outside. So 6. We jump forward, we always skip that first one, come to the second, and we want to double crochet ourselves across all of those lines that we see. But this time what we want to do is that in the gapping space we want to add another 2 in there. So essentially here's the kicker, is that I asked you to put in 6 in behind, you now have 6 in front as well. And so now let's go in behind again and we're going to add 6. And those 6 double crochet. Okay, and now we come back to the front again, and again we're still in the bottom, so we're just going to continue to maintain what we know. So we're going to go to the second one over, double crochet all of them that we have here. There's 4 of them, and this time, this gapping space, we still add another 2. 1 and 2. And now we turn it back and we still have this space here, and there's going to be 6. So 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And once you have your 6, you're just simply just going to join it and fasten off, and that would complete off motif number 3. So essentially what's happening at this point, I'm just going to pull the loop, is that you have the 5 sides. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then you see the rounded edge that would be on the outside of the Afghan. And so the only difference between this one and the very next one that you have, which is the blue and white, is that the only difference is that where you're starting off with is slightly different from each other. So this one here is closer to a join, where the other one was a lot farther down the join. And the difference also too is that the pinwheels are in a different location because of where you've started the corners. So let's begin. We're going to do motif number 4 next. So welcome to motif number 4. Just like you see here, our starting point is closer to the exterior of the outside. So we have 5 points of attaching, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then the exterior of the Afghan has a rounded surface like this. When we're starting off with, we're more deeper into this rounded off surface than we are closer to the corner. On the first Afghan, or on the motif number 3, you can see that our starting point was a lot closer to the point than it is in this one here. And so then that's the basic difference, because we want to have those wheels turned. So let's grab our sample, and if you have not unattached your yarn, then basically you're going to slip stitch over 1, and if you have unattached your yarn, like I suggested you probably should, then I'd recommend, you obviously have to come into the second one. So we skip the first one. It doesn't matter which one we pick, it just pick one, and essentially we want to attach it. So bring it on like that, and then join 1, 2, and 3, and let's begin reviewing this pattern together. Now starting this one off is actually really easy. So essentially we've just joined to the second one. We have 3 more double crochets to go, and just keeping that straggler on top of the line so we can bury it, we're just going to double crochet into the next 3 that are available. And once we get our 3 in, we're going to add 2 more double crochets to the first gapping of the green on the front side of it. And what I recommend, pull this string through, pull it through the back, so then it can be really well hidden, and just kind of join it with this line. So just kind of just lie it on top there so you can trap it into position. We're now going to go move in behind the pink, and this is what you do next. Okay, we now want to come into the back area here, and what we're going to do here is that we're going to put in 4 double crochets to start with. 1. It's an unusual start just got to bear with us, is that we're not really technically at a corner yet, so you just have to bear with it. We're going to create our first corner in just a second. So we have 4 double crochets. We're now only going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and then we're going to put 3 double crochets into that same spot. So there is technically your first corner, just like you see. So now we're going to jump around to the front side here, and basically we're going to skip over the front, and we're just going to come into the second, just like we have been, and we are going to put in 3 double crochet, or the double crochets in a row. So we're coming to the second, and then just double crochet what you see there. So there's going to be 4 total. Just like you see. And now once you have your 4 in there, you're not going to add anything to this gapping space at any point. And now we're just going to come immediately to the in behind, and we're going to add in more stitches. So now we're going to add more in behind, and we're just going to put 3 double crochet in. And once you have your 3 in here, you're going to chain 3, 1, 2 and 3, coming into the same one. Okay, so now we're just going to come back, and now we're going to jump on the front side of the green. So the green, there's only going to be 4 double crochets, so we immediately skip that first one and come to the second and double crochet into everything. We're not adding anything into that gapping space at this time, and we just now come back and do 3 double crochets again. And 1, 2, 3 chain and 3 double crochets into that same one to create another corner. So we want to create all the sides that we need in order to attach to the neighbor before getting around to that bottom part where we're going to sweep around. Once you get your 3 in there, we're going to come back to around to the front and double crochet the 4 that are in the front. You see? So we want to keep an eye on how many corners we have going. So we want to keep an eye on how many flat edges we have. We have only 1 so far. This is part of the bottom, so it doesn't count. So 1, 2, and we're now in a partial over 3, and we want to make sure that we are keeping an eye on that so that we can basically have the perfect amount of edges to work with, because we're going to be attaching it to the neighbor. So 3 double crochets in behind, and we're now going to chain 3 and then 3 double crochets in that same chain space in behind. And then we jump around to the front again. So just come back into that front of the green, double crochet the 4 that are there, and then let's go into the back again. So just flip it over and 3 double crochet, okay, chain 3 and 3 double crochet. And then we want to review again to make sure we have the number of count that we need. And essentially now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, so we still need a total of 5, so we can still keep going. And it's said to repeat, I think, 4 times anyway, and this just helps you visualize it even better if you can actually figure it out what the edges are. Saves you from having to count stitches. Okay, you get your 4 in there, and then in the back again. Okay, and there's 3 double crochet. So we have our flat side 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is the partial of the 5th, and this is where the game plan changes. So we're going to start off with our 3 double crochets, but this time what we want to do is that we want to chain 2 next, and then we're going to put in 4 double crochets. So not 3 but 4, because now we're going to start working down toward the bottom, sweeping around. And what we already did with the last motif, we're going to be doing the same with sweeping it all around. So essentially what we're going to do this time is that we're just going to come to the front, skip the first one, go to the second, And this time, instead of just finishing off on the 4 that you see, you want to make sure that you put another 2 into this gapping space right there to fill it out. This is what makes it rounded off at the bottom. And then we turn it over, and let's just get this back loop or this back chain, and we're going to put 6 double crochets there. So there's 6 back there. Okay, and so now we come back to the front, skip the first one, go to the second, and so they're all going to get 1 double crochet, so that'll give you a total of 4. And then you want to add another 2 into this gap. And again, we're not done yet, so we just got to flip this and get this last gap, and there will be 6 double crochet back in there. Okay, there's 4 and 5 and 6. And once you have your 6 in here, just join it to the top at the beginning of the chain 3 and fasten off nicely in order to complete that. So essentially this is what we have going on. I'm just going to pull the loop to be generous, and all we've just done now is that we have your one side, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then the bottom just all sweeps all the way around. So this doesn't look like it's rounded off, but you just got to give it a good few stretches, and then once it's attached it will actually pull and be in alignment properly. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and that completes off this motif number 4. And welcome back, and this is motif number 5, and we're about to start this. Motif number 5 and 6, there's only 2 of them required of each. They are the cornerstones, I guess, of this Afghan, and 2 of them are on the right and 2 of them are on the left. And essentially what's happening here is that these are only joined at 3 spots, 1, 2 and 3, and then this whole filled out area. So if you've done motifs 3 and 4 with this whole filled out area, you already know how to do that. So it's just a matter of starting off right. So you'll notice here that this here is the starting point, that we're starting before the first corner, and then we're going to make our way around and then begin to do this whole process together. So let's just get this started right now. Let's grab up our sample. If you've decided to leave on your yarn, you're just going to slip over 1, and if you're just joining it like I am, we're just going to create a slip knot and join it to any one of the second double crochets. So just into the same color, and we're just going to join it, pull it through and through, and then chain 3, 1, 2 and 3, and let's review our instructions together. Okay, let's begin, and we're essentially just going to, we have our chain 3, and so we're going to put 2 double crochets into the very next stitch. Now it doesn't seem like this makes sense, but in actual fact this is part of the transitioning of going from the rounded outside of the corner of the Afghan to actually going to a joining part. So you just have to trust in it. So what we want to do then is that we're going to, the next one is a double crochet, but it's like a V. So you're going to double crochet, chain 2 and double crochet into the same stitch. Okay, so there's your first corner. We're going to double crochet into the next and double crochet into the gapping space of the green, and that kicks that off. Move this green, if you've joined it, just move it in behind, and you can put it around the chain so that you can really hide that into position. So let's move along to more of this pattern. So let's begin. We're just going to take this green in behind, and we're going to put 4 double crochets in there. So this is kind of like how you've done corners already in the other motifs, depending which one you were working on. So there's only going to be 4 on here, and we're essentially then just going to come back to the front, just get that straggler out of the way, and come to the second one over, and you're going to double crochet and double crochet into the next, and the next one is going to be a double crochet, but it's going to change, the game plan is going to change this time. It's going to be double crochet, chaining 3 instead of 2, so chaining 3 and then back in to the same one, and then double crochet to the next and double crochet into the next gap space. Okay, the one in behind is the same. It's going to be 4 double crochets. That's pretty easy, right? And so we're just keeping an eye on the number of corners that we are producing. So we got 1, or sorry, this is an edge, so we have one. And so let's create our second one here, this corner, and we're coming to the second one over, double crochet to the next, and the third one over is going to be the V again. And so it's double crochet, chaining 3, and double crochet into the same hole. And I think I dropped my stitch there, and I did. Okay, and double crochet into the next, and double crochet into the next gap space. And now let's come in behind again, so we're going to put 4 double crochet there. So actually motifs 5 and 6 are actually really simple because there's not as many edges to worry about as far as counting, because once you get those done, then it's easy sailing the rest of the way around as you go all the way around. So let's just look at it again. So we have 1 and 2, this is the third. So we're going to be just coming around the corner in just a moment, so I just want to review the pattern once again. So we're just starting to turn the corner again. So here we go, we have the edge, and we're about to turn a corner, but this time this corner is slightly different. We want to start off in the very beginning and do the first 2 as normal, and we do the third one, okay, and this is going to be the V, and where we're joining to our neighbors. And so this time it's only chain 2, and we come back into the same, and then we double crochet into the next, and now this one on the gap we put in 2, just like you see here. So therefore you have just now completed your 3 edges, and so now we're going to come around and do exactly what we already have done in the other ones, is that the back ones will always have 6 double crochet around that chain. This is 4 and 5 and 6, and we come back, come up to the second one over, and we double crochet ourselves across. There's only 4 there, but what we're going to do is we're going to add 2 more in to the gapping space once we get there. Okay, so our 4 are in, but we're going to add 2 more on the edge in the gap. So we're making this now appear to be a circle. So coming around, in the next thing we put 6 double crochet. 3 and 4, 5 and 6. Coming back to the front, come to the second, and we're just filling them in with double crochets. So these exterior ones are not that bad as long as you know where to stop and start your flat edges. And once you get your 4 in there, put in 2 more double crochets in that gap space. Make sure it fills out. Bend it forward and put in 6 double crochets in the back. This is 3, 4, and 6. Okay, and bring this back. Skip the first one. And double crochet yourself all the way across that green. There will be a total of 4. And then into the gap space. Again, bend it forward. See, this one really is no brainer. It's just that first starting is make sure you get it right. That was 4 and 5 and 6. Okay, bring that back. Second one over. Okay, get all 4 in. Put 2 more on the edge, the gapping space, and then we flip it one last time. This is the last section, and there will be 6 in there. and then there's your 6, and simply just join it to the top at the beginning, chain in 3 to conclude off that. And let me just pull that off. So what we have here at this point is that we have a fabulous circle, and essentially there's your flat side, there's a flat, and then it's just rounded all the way around to make this a perfect corner. So that completes off motif number 5, and we have motif number 6 next. And motif number 6 is very, very similar to this, but our starting point is slightly different so that the pinwheels are in a different location. Welcome to motif number 6, and this is what it's going to look like at this point. And motif number 6 is joined in 3 spots, 1, 2, and 3, and then the remainder of it just swoops around. I haven't actually, this here is where we've started it, so it swoops all the way around, and our starting point is way farther away from this first corner, and because of that it just allows the project to turn a lot better. So basically you have a different section or a different point with these particular pinwheels. So without further ado, if you have unattached your yarn, we're going to reattach it back on, and if you have just left it on, you're going to slip stitch 1 over. So if you're reattaching, it doesn't matter where you're going as long as you're the second one over. And let's reattach now and just pull it through and join 3, 1, 2, and 3, and let's review the pattern now. To begin, we're going to start double crocheting, and we're just going to get these double crochets in position with what you already have. So we're just double crocheting ourselves along, and once we get to this first gapping space right here, we're going to put 2 more into there. Now this straggler has just been left on top, so I want to just kind of push it in behind and make sure that it looks like it's joining part of this, so I can just continue to go around. So let's begin. We're going to do this next section in behind, and essentially we have to create a corner. So to do that, we're going to put in 4 double crochets first. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and now we're going to chain 2. So 1 and 2, and then we come in and then we put in 3 more double crochets into the same spot. So we've started around the outside of the bottom before the corner. So now the corner is in position just like you see. So let's begin. We are going to work our way across, and this is what we need to do next. Okay, this one is a little bit easier than motif number 5, so we're just going to come into the front, second one over, and we're going to double crochet the first, or all of the 4 that you see, and then we're going to jump in behind. So we're not adding anything extra, we're just maintaining that, and then we're just going to jump in behind, and we're going to make another corner of 3 double crochet, and then chaining 3, 1, 2, and 3, and then 3 double crochet in. So that's really not a hard thing to do. Once you have that in, we want to keep an eye on it. So that was actually your first edge, so we're going to come back to the front, second one over, and we're going to put in 4 double crochets in a row, and that's exactly where the green is. We're not adding any more, any less, and we come back and just flip it and get that chain in behind, and again we're going to put 3 double crochet, chain 3, and 3 double crochet. Very good, and we're going to come back to the front and we're going to put in another 4 double crochets in a row. And I want to just re-inspect again, making sure I have the number. It says to repeat so many times, but it's sometimes better just to double check, just to give it a visual. So we have 1, 2, and this is about, we're about to transition, so we need to go and review the instructions because we're about to do the final corner before going and sweeping all the way around, and we need to make sure that we're doing that final corner properly. So let's go back to the instructions. To do this final corner before we start that sweeping all around, we want to chain or double crochet 3 times. And now this time, instead of chaining 3, we're only chaining 2, 1 and 2, and then essentially what we have to do is then 4 double crochets into that same spot, and this will then kick off the exterior just like to fill it in. See, so you have 1, 2, and 3, and so let's do our exterior. So the exterior is always the same way. If you've done motif number 5, this is the same thing that you already know, and essentially you're just going to come into each one of the 4 that you run into. Make sure you skip that first one, which I did. It's good. And essentially now what we have to do, once you get that first 4 in, this gapping space, you're going to add 2 more double crochets in. So that's easy, right? So we're going to flip it forward and we're going to put 6 double crochets on that back side, on that back chain. 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we come back to the front, second one over, we start collecting those double crochets and adding more in. And then once we do that, we add 2 more double crochets to this gapping space. Okay, coming back to the one in behind, we're going to put 6 more double crochets back there. And there's 5 and 6. And then we come back to the front and we fill this in again, so there'll be 4 filled in, and then we're going to add 2 more to that gapping space at the end. Just like there, and then we come back and get that one in behind again. So again, 5 and 6 are really not a big deal. They really don't have a lot of edges to really think about. So I think of the motifs, 1 and 2 are the easiest, and 5 and 6 are the second. It's just 3 and 4 that is just the ones you have to just really watch for. Make sure you're counting the number of rows. So you're coming back in the front, putting in 4. And then again around the back for 6. Okay, there's 5 and 6. And so essentially now we just have to just create the slip knot or slip stitch over, and essentially now you have the conclusion of round number 6. And so you can see that you have the perfect number of sides. So just don't be confused that this is not a corner over here. It looks like it's a corner, but it's not. It's just, you know, once everything gets stretched out, you will see that you actually have 1, 2, and 3 of your joining corners when you actually come right down to it. So let's move along. We're going to start the small motif next, and that is the next one on our hit list. Okay, we're about to start the small motif. So this is the smaller one. You need 30 of these. There is the back, just like you see here, and this is the front. It's almost like the yarn is kind of like clutching in behind and grabbing onto it. Now you should know that color A is the main color, which is the white, and color B is the color that you're filling in. So you just have to determine which one that you want to start off with first. Now to match my last scheme, I've been using the green as my color A and then pink as my color B. So I'm going to do the exact same thing. Now this starting is almost identical to, it is actually identical to the way that you started off with the octagons. The only difference is that once you get this first revolution done, you're pretty well finishing off that color and then just completing the rest of these motifs together. So let's begin, and we're going to create a slip knot. And remember, it never counts as 1, and we want to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and coming into the very beginning and create the ring. So you've done that before, and essentially this is what we need to do next. So the start is the very identical to the octagon, so we're going to chain up 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4. That counts as a double crochet and chain 1, and we're going to double crochet chain 1 with a total of 8 times, going into the center of the ring all the way around. And we're using the main color. In this case it would be green. I found these ones whip off really quickly, so you know, if you want to take a break from the large octagons and get more of these done, it's a great way to take a break, but I didn't find these ones a big deal at all. So I want to count these. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We chain 1 and then we join it to the 3rd stitch up of the 4, and then just join it like that and create the ring, or create that loop just like we have been doing on the large octagon. And I'm going to get rid of this straggler at this point. So I'm going to grab my pink and I want to create a slip knot first. Make sure the tail is a little extra long so that you can secure it into position, especially in these smaller ones. You really do need that. So we want to take the green back, and I want to take the yarn strands and put them forward, and we want to look where that post is that we joined, and the post that we joined is right here. So I want to move to this, the middle, to the next gapping space right here. So I'm going to come up through the middle and then out like this, and grab the yarn, the pink yarn, and pull it through. We're going to attach it, okay, and then chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And coming into the next one, what I'd recommend too is just grab this straggler and pull it toward the interior so it's out of your way, and it'll just make it easier for you to follow along. So now that we have our 4 in there, we immediately come to the next gapping space, come in through the center, out through the space, and double crochet. Chain 1, come to the next one. So wrap, next space, chain 1. We keep doing that all the way around. So I'm going to assume that you have been following the octagon because you know what you're doing at this point. So this is the only revolution that you're going to have with this color, but you're thinking to yourself, well, that doesn't look like it makes sense. You have to go a revolution around with the green in order to get this to settle down into position. Again, you need 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I still have that, and again I can see that I still haven't put anything between there. Now before I finish this off, what I want to do is I want to make sure that green comes in front, okay, both strands leading to the yarn ball and the loop, before chaining 1 and joining it with the pink once again. And we are going to fasten off the pink at this time. So essentially we're just going to cut it, and I'm going to pull the string like this. So this is how quick you're going to use this pink up. And I want to make sure I kind of darning needle into position at this time. I want to make it look good. It's important that it looks good because this Afghan is going to be amazing. I'm just slipping it behind a few stitches, and I'm going to go 3 times. So that was 1, 2, and 3. I also want to take care of that back part of that straggler that's coming out through. And my point being is that I want that knot that we created to be pulled backward so it's not in the visual when it's sitting down. So I'm just going to make sure I tug it, and when I attach it in behind here, just in some stitches, I want to make sure that knot is not visible on the front side. I just want to tie it into position. And so now I've completely dealt with the pink. So that's game over for the pink. So now the green is in front, and that's exactly where I needed it to be. And so this is what we're going to do next. So I'm just going to pull the green nice and tight back on, and this is exactly what we've done with the octagon. So now that we pulled everything tight, we're simply now going to slip stitch to the interior here. So there's a gapping space, and we want to pull through and through. And this is exactly what we did in the large octagon. So now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and into the same space you are going to double crochet again. And after you do that, you chain 2, 1 and 2. So now we come to the next one here, and just like we've done in the octagon, we just pull it forward and then double crochet into the next space, and then chain 2. Okay, coming in to the next one, just pulling it forward. So essentially you're just pushing all that pink in behind to create the look of just being in the center. Chain 2 and then just come into the next one. This is actually take number 2 of this whole thing for me. I realized that when I got to the exterior that I forgot to chain 2 on some of these, and it made a huge difference in the way that it looked. It made it look like a not a square, let me tell you. So we're just continuing, and look, I just did that again. So after you get your 2, chain 2 and then 2 double crochet. Okay, and then chain 2 and 2 double crochet in, and okay, and chain 2 and then come to the next one and chain 2 and next, and you should have a total of 8 of these groups of 2 when you come all the way back around. Okay, so we don't need to worry about the pink anymore, so we're just going to chain 2 and just join it with a slip stitch to the top of the chain 3 that we started off with. And let's verify our count. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8, and we know that we're good to go for the next round. Okay, the next round is our final for this, and all we're just going to do is that we're going to chain up 3. So 1 2 and 3, we don't slip stitch anywhere, and we just double crochet back into the same spot in which we just joined those in, and then we chain 3. 1 2 and 3, and we come to the very next one right here, and we're going to double crochet twice. And then this gapping space we're going to put in 2 half double crochets to make it smaller, because we're going to make a nice flat edge, and then the next 2 are going to be single crochets each. So we've gone from double to half to singles as we've been doing all the way across, and now we're going to get bigger as we head to the next corner. So we're going to do half doubles, 2 of them, and then the next one is going to be a double. There's going to be 2 of them into that same one. We're going to create our next corner and then chain 3, and then come to the next stitch for 2 doubles to put in there to complete that corner. So you would think that normally these corners are usually on a gapping space, but in actual fact they're actually on the edges of these. So let's we're going to half double into this gap. It's nice to see something different for a change for these Afghans. You know, it's nice to have something unexpected. Okay, so 2 halves, and then we're going to have a single, and then 2 halves, meaning half doubles. Okay, and now we're going to create the next corner, so we're just going to put in 2 double crochet into the same stitch, chain 3, and come into the next stitch for 2 doubles. We're in the gapping space again, so that means that we're going to do halves, 2 halves. We're going to do 2 singles in a row here, and it's in the middle section, and then 2 halves again, and now we're going to go into our final corner. So the next stitch is going to be 2 doubles followed by chaining of 3, and then 2 doubles. Okay, we're coming to the final conclusion, the final one, and so the next one is halves, 2 of them. The middle is 2 singles, and then we have 2 halves. And the final second one of the half, we're just going to join with a slip stitch because you've already done the corner, and we just join it to the top at the beginning, chain 3, and we fasten off, and that would conclude doing the motifs for the small. So let's review on how to join these together. Here is my 2 motifs, and essentially I would have an octagon here, and this here would be in the middle. So you should end up with the same amount of stitches that are joining each other as you go along. So what I want to do is that I want to start on one side, and what I'm doing here is that normally the string would be bigger because I would do more at one time, is that I've created a slip knot on the end, and I'm just going to come into only one side of the stitch. I'm not going to come into both sides, and it'll be very obvious in just a moment. And I'm going to come into the other side, and I'm going to come into the same position. And I'm just going to come into the one back side. So there's like 2 loops. I'm only coming into the front loop on this side and the back loop on this motif. And this is called what is called the invisible seam. So I just want to put it through that slip knot and then just join it nice and tight. So now I just want to go to the next stitch that's available. It's in the front, it's on the back loop on this one, and it's going to be on the front loop of the next one that's over here. And I just want to pull it through. And this straggler, I want to make sure I continue to trap it as I go. So now I come back to the front and go to the next stitch, but on the back loop only. I come to the next one here on the other side, and I'm leaving the straggler down on top. And this is a whip stitch, by the way. And I just want to continue to trap these into position. And as soon as you get like a good section of this straggler in, you don't need to worry about it. You can just kind of trim it. But what's happening is, because you're only going into the back loop on one and the front loop on the other, is that you are creating it so that your Afghan will sit down perfectly without any raised edges in between. And it's a technique to do. You could also, if you felt inclined to do it, you could single crochet them together, but you should expect that you're going to have raised ridges. But if that's the look that you want to get, then that's the look you want, right? So it's up to you. Your creativity is basically, you know, in your hands at this point, or what you want to do. So eventually these stitches should match each other. Now if you're off by one, you know, this is like, I think I'm actually off by one. So what I can do is that I've come out here and I'm going to come back into the front here, but I'm going to go back to that last loop I was in, and this will pull this one stitch backward. And so again, bringing this in alignment. It's a cheating technique, but it works. And don't think we don't all do it. So, you know, like, Mikey's breaking the rules again. So you're going to whip stitch yourself across. You want to get right into the sides here. Now I always just go into a chain when it comes to these corners, and you can go into the whole gapping space if you wanted to. Depends on your look. And essentially what you would have done is that this would be a perfect join, and this is called an invisible seam, so you can just see it there, and it looks great even on the rear side, just like so. So this would be how you would complete putting these particular motifs together. And so essentially I would like do like a whole whack at one time, and maybe circling around this whole thing with these particular string. So I hope you've enjoyed this in-depth tutorial on how to do the peppermint throw. I think you're really going to love it. Once you get a hold of it, it is going to be amazing. And even the back side is not too bad. It's kind of interesting. But you know what? You only live once, and you might as well give it a try. Until next time, I'm Mikey on behalf of redheart.com as well as the Crochet Crowd. Stay tuned as we have more free ideas and patterns coming real soon. We'll see you.